All right, everybody, it's another fantastic Thursday for some parts of the country. Uh, and this is SK Barrett and Real Monsters, and I'm joined by the lovely and talented Wes Hobrick. And we
Hello.
are so very happy to have. All right, everybody, it's another fantastic
Oh,
I can hear Thursday. Somebody's got their speakers on in the background. Kelly Evans, one of our favorites, is here once again. It's been too long, Kelly.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. You need to turn your
Yep.
volume up just a bit, if you could.
I'm trying.
How's my volume?
Well, you play with
Okay.
that, and I am going to.
I'm here.
One of our
Okay.
favorites is here once again. It's been too long. We're getting feedback.
Going. Oh, is that me? Am I doing
Good.
something stupid?
You need to turn your volume up just a bit, if you could.
I did. It's up.
It is time for M of the Week.
How's my volume?
Well, you play with
Okay.
that, and I am going to.
I'm here.
One of our favorites is here once again. It's been too long. We're getting feedback.
Okay, what's going on? Oh, is that me? Am I doing
Good.
something stupid? Oh my
You
god.
need to turn your volume up just a bit. Time for M of the Week. I don't have any external speakers, so I'm pretty sure it's not me.
Only thing I can think of is me.
What's going on? Oh, is that me? Am I doing something stupid?
So, while you guys are playing with your...
Can you hear?
I mean, I am on the phone.
Can you hear me?
I hear you a little bit, Kelly.
I don't know how I can get. I
There.
Okay. That I think I got it.
There. Step
How
closer to
about
the
me?
microphone. Put down the beer.
Oh god, this is so embarrassing.
Oh, well. We'll take it out of your check.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So, hey, there's M of the Week. And this was obviously a summertime photograph when she was sunning herself, which she, like every dog, likes to do. But she also likes the snow. She's a dog for all seasons.
Aww.
And we are going to talk about today something nice little change of pace.
Mm-hmm.
Art crimes. And since
Well,
I don't know
we're not
anything about it, we brought in Kelly.
we're not going to promise there's not going to be any dead bodies involved, but yeah, it is a little bit different from what we normally do.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll try to keep the dead bodies to a minimum, though.
Yeah, it's,
That's not a prerequisite on this show, but if you want to.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
take it away, Kelly.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay. Well, let's jump right in then. We're doing art theft. And first of all, I think we were talking earlier, and I think what we want to do is dispel some of the myths.
Okay.
hmm
So, yeah. So basically, what a lot of people may think is that art crime is like the Thomas Crown Affair. If anybody's seen that movie, all very Hollywood. It's all very swift. It's all swish. There's billionaires that want art collections for themselves, and they break in and they decode the alarm system, and they do
Right.
fancy dances through all of the laser beams, and they manage to get in and get out very smoothly in 2 seconds, and no one gets hurt, and it's all just such a beautiful little wonderful crime. And it's like, nah, this is so far from the truth, it's not even funny.
you mean that doesn't happen? I always thought they shrunk down to the size of sponges and then just slid under everything until they got to the painting.
Well, there's I don't know. There's the show. I don't know if anybody's seen it. I'm such a geek. There's a show called The Librarians, and there's one particular episode where someone breaks into a museum, like a famous bank, and he has to break into. Oh, actually, no, I got a better example. One of the Ocean's movies. I think it might be the second or third one. There's the French guy goes in to, I think, steal either the diamonds or a Fabergé egg, and he does this sort of beautifully choreographed dance move through all of the laser beams, and it's like, no, that's just it's lovely on TV to watch, but no, that's just not true.
Right.
Right. So first of all, that idea of spray smoke that'll reveal laser beams is a fallacy to begin with. That's just one element.
Oh, so when they did it on Big Bang Theory, it doesn't actually work. I'm so disappointed.
At least that's what I've been told by people who might know.
The problem with that is a lot of museums just can't actually afford to, like a lot of smaller museums that get robbed can't actually afford to put in that level of security.
Right.
So it may be like, I don't even think that exists at the Louvre, and we're talking like some of the world's most famous pieces of art.
hmm Right. And I think we should be clear from the start going forward that it's not just paintings
No,
that
no,
are stolen. It's statuary, it's antiquities. It
yeah.
was even, I was reading a case about a Stradivarius that was stolen.
Oh
Oh,
God, yeah. Yeah,
sure.
there's a huge problem in the US with archaeological sites and burials, all the cultural property. And people just will go and dig them up thinking, look, I got all this stuff, I'm just going to sell it. And it's like you're damaging someone's culture, never mind the monetary value of it.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah,
So
absolutely.
so it's not like that. And as far as, the billionaire playboy type who just wants all the paintings for themselves, out of the more than 100,000 works stolen each year, I've only found one example of, he's not even a billionaire. He just wanted the paintings. He went and he actually stole a bunch of paintings and he didn't actually get very, I think he got like 24 months in prison, just because he didn't sell them. He just wanted them for himself. But
Well,
that's
hold on, hold on. How
he,
many a year?
over 100,000 individual works stolen each year, work
Worldwide?
worldwide. Yeah, and
That's
worth,
that's astonishing. I would never have guessed it was that high.
it's worth about nearly 6 billion US dollars a year.
Holy crap.
Billion.
Wow.
It's billion. That's not a mistake. That's not million. That's billion. Um, and it's the third largest criminal activity outside of drugs and weapons.
And
So
I
that's
don't have to learn gymnastics. I'm switching industries.
to watch that movie again because that scene really is just beautiful watching him dance through the lasers. But no, completely fiction.
Cool.
With the
That was
low
that was the thing that
sentencing.
was stopping me.
What was it? Yeah. What, you can't do the dance moves?
Right.
Uh, Well, there was a scene where it showed him doing almost a kata. He would practice a kata every day out in his, the guy, the French guy, the little bad guy in the Ocean's movie. He
Yeah.
would show him do this kata outside in his beautifully wonderful millionaire mansion, and then it ends up that he practiced this kata so that he could specifically go through all the laser beams and not get hurt. So it's a nice scene. It's fictional. It's
Yeah.
completely fictional, but it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
Yep, so there's worldwide more than 100,000 works stolen each year, worth nearly $6 billion
Yeah.
from everywhere. And we'll talk about it later. There are organizations like police organizations and groups set up all over the world to try and stop it and recover the artworks and things like that. And basically, out of everything that's stolen, only about just under 10% is ever actually recovered.
Wow.
There's a lot.
Sad.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That sentence really, honestly, kind of makes sense to me in this country. Maybe it's wrong to call art theft a white collar crime.
It's not, because it's a theft of actual objects.
Yeah.
That could be one of the myths out there. People thinking of it as white collar
Well,
crime.
yeah, and it's certainly not a victimless crime, obviously. 'Cause you're
Right.
taking something, a possession that belongs to somebody else.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Well,
But I
that's
just wonder if that perception is what got him, 2 years in the pen.
well. He actually his name was I was going to get into him later. It's one of the more famous art thefts. His name is Stefan Breitweiser. He's a French art thief, and between 1995 and 2001, he actually stole 239 pieces worth $1.4 billion.
What?
Wow.
And
Yeah,
he,
and
and
it's-
he would just like set a Renoir up on his kitchen table while he's having his cornflakes.
Yeah, he stole them all for himself. So he got 26 months in jail. It was basically considered a slap on the wrist, but because he didn't try to sell them to anybody, he just wanted them for himself. And that's the only example I could find of anybody who did it for themselves. In fact, when the police were actually closing in on him, he used his girlfriend as a lookout when he was actually stealing these things.
Bad
And
idea.
his mom was involved, apparently. She also knew that he had been stealing the stuff. And when the police started closing in, his mom started chucking it all into the river.
Oh no!
Oh.
What?
Because he didn't want his poor son to be caught with the merchandise. So
Oh
he
my
went
God!
and just started chucking all the paintings in. And the girlfriend apparently chucked a few pieces into the Seine as well. So it was just one of the more ridiculous things. But we do have some pretty ridiculous stories to go through tonight.
That should be extra time on the sentencing for throwing out that art.
It's crazy. Yeah, like I said, it's the third highest crime worldwide, like criminal activity. But I want to go back a little bit. I want to sort of go through a little story about a very famous piece of art that everybody knows about. So it'll be a nice, easy one. And it basically kicked off the whole art theft sort of thing. It was when the Mona Lisa was stolen. So in 1911, the Mona Lisa was stolen from the Louvre. And
Has everybody seen this painting?
I'm not seeing it yet. I might be lagging.
No, but I mean in
In a person.
Have
Oh.
you?
Not that I want to brag, but yeah, quite a few times. I have been to Paris. I've been to the Louvre. I love the Louvre. It's wonderful there. But at the time, the Louvre wasn't the place that it is now. It wasn't. There weren't a lot of people there. Basically, all of the guards were retired soldiers and pensioners. Hardly anybody visited it. There were a lot of older men. They were actually known for falling asleep at the job. So, yeah. And in 1911, hardly anybody knew what the Mona Lisa or who the Mona Lisa. It was pretty much just this nice painting by this Italian guy. and that's pretty much anybody knew about it. So in 11, it was on the 21st of August. Someone snuck in fairly early, came in a side door, walked in, took the painting off the wall, went down to a staircase, took the painting out of the frame, and tried to get out another side door. Couldn't manage that because for some reason, I don't know, he tried to take the doorknob off, and then someone else spotted him. So he stuffed the painting under his jacket. And at this point, he couldn't get up because the door was locked. So he actually took a little screwdriver that he had with him and he removed the doorknob. I don't know why. And then someone else caught him. So he just sat himself down on the painting you can see there that's where the Mona Lisa used to be displayed, like just with a bunch of other paintings.
Wow.
So he's sitting on the stairs as this other guy comes by, and the other guy says, "Hey, how are you? Why is there no doorknob here?" And the thief goes, "Oh, well, I don't know. I just got here myself." So the second guy walks through, locks the door again. The thief is still stuck inside. He can't get out that way. So basically, he walks back the way he came, still carrying the Mona Lisa, this time without its frame. He walked by a sleeping guard. Like right by a sleeping guard. They weren't even in booths or anything. The poor guy was just asleep in his chair. He walked right by him and out a side door, and that was it. Left.
Oh my word.
And because the Mona Lisa wasn't famous, and you can see it's kind of shoved into a gallery with a bunch of other stuff, no one noticed it for like hours. Completeless hours.
My goodness.
And the only reason it got discovered was nearly 24 hours later was because there was this other guy another painter who used to do copies of paintings for customers. He wasn't, he was legit. He just had a business where he'd go in and just do copies for people who wanted famous paintings. And he came to finish a painting. He started one of the Mona Lisa. And he came and he's like, "Okay, where's the Mona Lisa?" And he goes and asks the guard, and the guard's like, I don't know. So he goes and checks, and he goes, "Oh yeah, the Mona Lisa's missing." And at the time, like no one, like I said, everybody just didn't know. The painting wasn't famous at all. It wasn't worth nearly as much as it is now. So it was just a well-organized, systematic. The guy just walked in. He knew when. I don't know. I guess he knew when the guards would be asleep. I don't know. They just had a reputation.
Or he just waited or something.
Yeah, he went in at about 7:30 in the morning, and by 8 he was gone. Like it took 20 minutes.
Wow.
So the case was turned over to
and nobody noticed this guy had a painting under his jacket.
No one noticed, and no one noticed the painting was gone for like 24 hours. It's crazy. So they turned to this guy called Louis Lapine, who was the most important policeman in France at the time. He was basically the Sherlock Holmes of his day. He was one of the founders of modern French policing. He introduced like forensic science and fingerprinting and all that kind of stuff. He was one of the first people in the world to actually use fingerprinting. And he started investigating, and he started with, okay, how hard is it to get this painting off the wall? So they did a fake painting. They put it up on the wall in exactly the same way. And he had some of his men try to take it off, and they took like, I don't know, I think it was 14 minutes to get the painting off the wall. And then one of the guards came by and he said, "Oh, well, you kind of have to know the trick." So one of the guards who worked that came up and took it off within seconds because there was a trick to actually pulling it off the wall.
Ah.
So they reckoned that, okay, so someone must have known how to take it off the wall properly. Otherwise, they would have been, struggling with it. So they found a fingerprint because at the time, thieves didn't wear gloves because fingerprinting wasn't a thing. So they didn't really care about leaving their fingerprints all over the place.
True.
He found a fingerprint. But the problem was that Lapine had 750,000 cards with fingerprints on them. And it would have taken like months, if not years, to check every single one. But then when they did this, he started sort of profiling. So that's when this little experiment came. So they reckoned, okay, so it could be someone in the museum because they know how to take the painting off the wall. But the other thing is he was very, very biased, and he didn't think it was stolen by someone like a lower class person. They thought it must be a highly skilled international team of art thieves. It must be, someone who is very classy, very suave, very sophisticated. Because why would someone who's not sophisticated want a piece of art? It just didn't occur to him that, non-upper class people would want a piece of art.
It always really gets me when people don't go to the Occam's razor
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
first.
that's one of the significances. It's one of the things about this particular case that afterwards it changed the way that both crime is investigated and the way that art thieves view the art world. So they tested all the art, the people inside the museum, and no one came up. It wasn't the fingerprint didn't match. So they figured, okay, maybe one of our subcontractors. There had been some subcontractors in that had worked on specialist framing for some of the paintings, and they tested all those people and they tested everybody, and one guy didn't show up, and they went, okay, so this guy didn't show up. Let's go and visit him. And they went to visit him. His name was, he's 29-year-old. His name was Vincenzo Perugia. And they went to visit him, and he had like a small little grovelly place. It was, horrible, and rats and cockroaches. And he was just like an Italian migrant worker. He wasn't well educated. He was very poor. He was already known to the police. He had been arrested for theft and assaulting a prostitute with a knife, and he spent days in prison. And he was the only suspect they have. So they grudgingly sent a junior officer to his place. And basically the guy, they just didn't think this guy, he was too lower class to be an art thief. So they took a look around his place and went, no, it cannot be this guy, and left. The thing is that the Mona Lisa was wrapped in a piece of cloth sitting on the table as the policeman was actually there.
Are you kidding me?
Wow.
He threw a towel over it.
Yeah.
Nope, no painting here. Nope.
So he denied everything.
Nope, I'm just an oppressor of women.
Yeah.
Don't look for any paintings here.
He had an alibi. There was lots of finger pointing in the press. At this point, most of the world knew about it. The French were furious because this was someone who had stolen a piece of their identity. So this is where the cultural element comes in. So never mind how much the painting was worth, because it wasn't worth nearly what it is today. It was not famous. I have to keep reminding people of that. They just didn't think he was just too low class to have stolen this thing. So a few weeks after the theft, Paris newspapers started offering rewards. They started with what would be about $1.5 million USD today. So they offered a lot of money to get this painting back. But it wasn't because the painting was worth so much as it was a cultural thing. It was such an insult to France that someone could dare walk into the Louvre and steal a piece of art.
I'm going to venture a guess that this wasn't the first time they'd been stolen from.
Well, that's the funny thing. So as they were looking for the Mona Lisa, some guy came forward, this Belgian guy called Joseph Géry Piré, and he said, "Oh yeah, it's easy to steal stuff from the Louvre. I do it all the time." he's like, "Oh yeah, like I pretty much do it to order. Like you tell me what you want, I'll go in and take it."
He just walks up and admits it?
Yeah. And apparently he had.
That's hilarious.
So he would just go to the Louvre, come home with objects from the Louvre that he just picked up and stuck in his pockets. And some of the objects were these Iberian head statues, which he had sold to Picasso, the artist. So the police actually visited Picasso because he's the type of guy who would steal it.
I think I've heard about that. Yeah, that they accused him of being in on it.
So they thought, yeah, it's got to be this guy because he's upper class, he's sophisticated, he's exactly the type of person we're profiling, still not realizing that anybody can steal art. So they went and they had him questioned, and they actually found the Iberian head statues because he actually still had them. And he got sort of a slap on the wrist for having stolen, merchandise from the Louvre. So he gave that back. He actually used it in his art. He didn't really want it. He didn't try to sell it. He just wanted it because he wanted to use it in some of his art. So if you're familiar with Picasso, the name of the painting is La Dame d'Avignon. Anyway.
Yeah.
So they weren't able to build a case. So eventually it became a cold case. It got moved off the front page. Lapine retired in 1913, so that's 2 years after it was stolen, without having solved it. So, in the meantime, so after about 28 months after it disappeared, this art dealer from Florence gets a letter from someone who calls himself Leonard V. And this guy says, I have the Mona Lisa in my possession. I want to sell it at a 25% discount because, you're Italian and I'll give it to you for, and they get a guy in from the Uffizi Museum. It's kind of the Italian version of the Louvre. And they agree to pay a finder's fee of 500,000 lira, which is about just over $500,000 US.
Whoa.
So the guy pulls out a case from under the bed, and he starts taking out all this weird stuff from this case. He takes out paintbrushes, a mandolin, shoes, just weird stuff. And then the case has a false bottom. There's an object wrapped in red velvet, the same red velvet that was in when they went to the what's his face is the Italian guy whose name is now just escaped. What is his name? Oh yeah, Perugia. So it ends up this guy is actually Perugia, and he wants to sell the painting back, but he wants, he's willing to offer a discount. And so he says to them, okay, well, you can take it away and take a look at it, and I'll just wait here. And so they take it away. They figure out, yeah, it actually is the Mona Lisa. And then instead of obviously giving him the reward, they send the police to his place, and he gets arrested.
Huh.
So this is over 2 years. So the thing's been missing for 2 years. In the meantime, it's been in all the international newspapers. In fact, there was an American news, but it's so little known that an American newspaper prints Mona Lisa stolen, but they actually put a picture of the wrong painting because they didn't know what the Mona Lisa was.
It's good to know journalism has maintained its standards.
It's so weird to me that there was a time when the Mona Lisa wasn't like in everybody's consciousness because it's one of the most common images these days. But anyway, they when they had visited him, it was like it was a couple of feet away from the policeman as he visited his. They were calling it one of the biggest police mistakes in history because it was wrapped in this red cloth on the table. They refused to believe he could be responsible. They didn't even fingerprint him at that point. It was crazy. So they were like, why? Like, why would this guy steal it? Like, he's not the right. We don't think he's the right type of person. He's not the right class. He's too poor. He's an immigrant, etc. He basically stole it because Italians were the largest single foreign population in Paris at the time, and they did all the jobs that the French didn't want. And as a result, they were treated very badly. Like he had his food spit in, and he had stuff spilled on him, and he was assaulted in the streets. And Italians just weren't treated very well. So this guy would walk around the Louvre, seeing all these Italian paintings that were in a French museum, and going, well, geez, that's not fair. These shouldn't be here. This is Italian art. It should be in Italy.
Oh.
And a lot of the work in the Louvre was stolen by Napoleon, and he was so offended by this that this great Italian art. They treat us so terribly, but they worship our art. That's not fair. So I'm going to steal this and take it back to Italy. Was basically.
Oh, he thought it had been stolen from Italy.
Yeah. Well, see, he did have. Okay, despite the craziness of. They treat this should be back in Italy. It actually Napoleon stole a lot and put it in the Louvre, but he did not steal the Mona Lisa. So he was wrong. That's one of the pieces that Napoleon did not steal. But back in Italy, he was actually seen as a patriot, not a thief. They refused to extradite him to France. He was tried in an Italian court. He was sentenced to 12 months, but he only served 7, which is basically a slap on the wrist. Because a lot of Italians at the time thought the same thing. There's all of our art is in France. All of our people are treated so badly in France. We should have this art back. So the impact of this so they got the Mona Lisa back, and they decided to maybe put a little bit more security on it. But the impact of this is it's one of the first, or if not the first, major art theft. So now that everybody around
except for the Belgian guy.
I'm not going to take anything. If it fits in my pocket, I'm taking it. So basically what it did was it opened up the possibility to other people that, oh, we can steal art too. So the impact was it started a chain of sort of a chain of events internationally, that wow, art can now be stolen. The other thing it did was the Mona Lisa was now famous. It was now an international icon. Everybody and all these thieves realized, oh, we can steal art too. Um, in Let's see, in 1953, the Mona Lisa was valued at $100 million. The value of it today, and again, this is, I kid you not, 3.5 billion US dollars.
Do you think somebody would
Wow.
actually pay that?
No, no, and it's just no.
No,
um,
I don't either.
it's it's crazy. It's
Somebody paid something for a crystal skull not that long ago.
yeah. Well,
Uh,
there are a lot of
Was it Indiana Jones's?
no, I forget what they exactly call it, but it was literally a skull made out of crystals.
what are
Yeah, those
those?
are there are archaeological artifacts like that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but it
Well,
it
this wasn't an artifact; it was a piece of art
Oh, okay.
that somebody made.
well, there's statues, there's paintings, there's like everything is stolen. Everything that you put in a museum is basically up for grabs if you're a good thief. So basically, that changed the face of crime. Art theft now became the third highest grossing criminal trade after drugs and arms trade, and it's worth, you know, 4 billion, or sorry, yeah, nearly £6 billion a year. So basically, because of that one crime, now just changed everything. One, the Mona Lisa became super famous. Two, um, the investigative techniques changed because then they started doing profiling and fingerprinting and forensics. And three, art became one of the ways that criminals could make money.
Man, I'm still a little weirded out about that with Picasso. He's one of my all-time favorite painters.
He's yeah he and I guess he must have thought because they were Iberian statues in his background, he must have thought it was okay for him to keep this stolen art. I don't know. But yeah, when the police came to visit him, they kind of went through his cupboards and found the statues.
Hmm.
I
Wow.
I understand he was, and I can't remember where I came across it. But he was pretty um, offended that they thought he would steal the Mona Lisa.
Well, yeah, but the other thing is that because they didn't because they didn't, think that anybody would steal a piece of art. They thought only upper class, people would steal it. He seemed like the perfect candidate.
You know, it's interesting because we were talking about uh, the Yorkshire Ripper and the police assumptions that allowed that to continue for so long. And it's to me,
Yep.
it's the same type of mentality. Oh, all these women are prostitutes, therefore it's only prostitutes I get that this person is interested in. Um,
And
and
I can
that
kind of I can kind of see that because they're following a pattern. Like at least they've got evidence. Yes, these however many women are prostitutes. Therefore, like I can kind of see the logic there. But just to assume that lower class people can't possibly enjoy art, they can't possibly know anything about art. They can't
right.
possibly enjoy. There's no way a lower class person would even be, caught dead in a museum. Never mind stealing stuff. It was just like wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, that you basically cut off most of the population, like because how many people were walking around like that at the time? Well, I suppose there are quite a few millionaires, but still, I don't know. It just
That is a new level of tunnel vision
yeah,
on
seriously.
the part of the police.
This is the one, like one of the most famous French policemen at the time. I mean, he did do an awful lot of good work with the forensics and stuff like that because he applied it all. He didn't just use all of this for the Mona Lisa. He did it for all of all the parts of his work. So he really did do a lot to change the sort of like the face of detective work. But yeah, the assumptions he made with this were just wildly inaccurate.
Wow. And you know, if I can call back to the beginning when we were talking about, drug dealers, stealing art for their private collections, personal use type of things. Back in the 80s, in the media, in the movies, it was the Japanese who were the instigators of that kind of art theft.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's
it's whoever's the cultural bad guy of the moment.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. When in fact it's like I said, I could only find one example of this guy that wanted for himself. So just to address the ridiculous value of some of this art, I thought I might go through a few. Why is this art? Why is it worth so much? Like it's
Okay.
like some of the
Mhm.
values of some of this stuff are almost obscene, and you just wonder. So basically, what makes art expensive? Like what makes it so worth so much? Um, basically, authenticity. So a real Monet, for example, is going to be worth more than a fake one, obviously.
Hopefully.
The provenance. So basically, this is a piece, the Mona Lisa is a piece that they can follow right through from its original, the original art right through to whoever owns it now. And if you've got a trail like that with no paths, it's going to be worth more than, say, someone painted it, and then there's a 50-year gap and we don't know what happened to it, and then it
Right.
resurfaced again. And then so a lot can happen in that 50 years. People can copy them. They could be that kind of thing.
True.
Well, and then you also have the variable of auctions in there.
Well, yeah,
Um,
there's that, yeah, that comes into it. So it's basically how much do people want to pay for it? So, um,
right.
like the market value of it. So basically, yeah, so those things, there's the condition of it. Basically, the better the condition, the better, the more it'll be worth. The historical significance, if it's a major player in the canon of art history, it's going to have a bunch of zeros on the end, like the Mona Lisa. The popularity of the artist is, I mean, Da Vinci's just, top of the top pretty much, isn't he? Like,
Right.
if, who wouldn't want a Da Vinci in their living room?
Who
I know,
doesn't have one?
oh, well, I know that I wouldn't mind a few more.
I've been thinking about getting the Vitruvian Man tattooed on my wrist.
I love Vitruvian. I
Yeah.
like doing. I like doing Vitruvian like I did a Vitruvian snowman for Christmas, and
Wes, if you did it on his elbow, he could do crunches.
Well, I was hoping to finish my sleeves that I've got going.
Ah.
So I'm going to have to do the elbow or the back of my arm.
oh, the inside of your arm's gonna hurt.
Eh, tattoos are addictive in that way.
Endorphins.
Yeah, the endorphin rush after you get one.
I don't know. I had a bit of alcohol before I got a couple of mine, so there wasn't so much endorphins as hanging. Just as fun.
Yeah.
What else makes a painting worth money?
If the artist is alive or not. I mean, that's kind of the long running joke. That's maybe not a joke. Is that an artist's work is worth more after they die?
Yeah, it's. Well, it also well, it depends on how many paintings they've already done, and as well when they're dead they can't do any more. So yeah, all of their
Right.
stuff goes up in value. There's also something called typicality. So when you look at a Picasso painting, one of his later things, like his Cubist paintings, for example, will be worth more than his early stuff because people associate him with a particular style of art, like the Cubism.
Right.
So
But he did a
they'll be
lot of other styles.
yeah, he did a lot of other stuff as well, but because he's most familiar and most known for a particular style of art, that style will be worth more than some of the like a farm painting by him as opposed to one of his Cubist paintings. The backstory of the artist will actually make a difference. So if the artist has an interesting backstory, apparently that makes the painting worth more.
Mm.
With the medium, how they painted it. The oil paintings tend to be more valuable than like sketches or watercolors or prints, obviously. Something I found interesting when I was researching, apparently color comes into it. So paintings that contain the color red, for example, always cost more.
Mm.
I thought was very, I don't know, it seems to be very subjective, the color. But anyway, that's one of them. The subject matter, sunnier landscapes are worth more than gloomy storms and, things like that. Um, there's something called wall power, like how it's going to look on a wall. It's kind of
Really?
difficult. It's kind of difficult to quantify, but does it shock you? Does it inspire awe when you look at it? Is it, that sort of thing? All of those things will, you know, elevate the price.
That red thing is also true on a car lot.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't know why. Maybe red is, I don't know, it's bright and it's exciting, but it's also the color of blood. So it
Yeah.
weighs. I don't know. It's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, that's what.
In the
Oh yeah,
comments, Michelle says red is also more expensive color to make and
it used,
purchase.
it was actually blue that was more expensive to make.
Oh, really?
Yeah, blue was one of the most well, depending on the type of blue. And it also depends on the period you go through. But red was very, very, very valuable. For example, there's something called Pompeii red, which is if you look at the walls of Pompeii, where the Vesuvius erupted and they
Oh, yeah.
started. Yeah, if you look at some of the walls of Pompeii red, and that was super, super expensive. So only the richest people had that. But then when you start getting into like the medieval period and the Renaissance, the blues were very, very expensive. So, like Da Vinci and Rembrandt, when they used the blues, because of the mineral they used, it was quite a rare mineral they used to make the blues, then that would be more expensive. So it kind of depends on the time period. There's also something called Egyptian blue, which blue was more expensive back in Egyptian times because of the way that it was made. And then, yeah, it just depends on the culture and the time period. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that makes this, but it's just market value. Now, having said that, no one's going to pay. What did we say the Mona Lisa was worth? Like
One point something billion.
yeah, like no one. I don't know. I just does.
I mean, if you're the Louvre, wouldn't you want to at least find out, does Jeff Bezos want to have this, in his kitchen?
Yeah,
Because that's a lot of money.
it's a huge amount of money. But the interesting thing,
Yeah.
the reason I started with this particular story, is not only because it changed the criminality of art, like oh, now everybody can steal it. There's actual value for criminals in stealing art, in terms of it being not only just worth the money, but they can use it as collateral. And we'll get into a few examples of
Collateral,
that.
like
Yeah,
like in to trade it for something, or against a loan, or that kind of collateral, or prosecute, in their defense if they get
yeah,
caught.
yeah, exactly. So just to give you an example, I'll go through a little bit later, but there were a couple of Van Gogh paintings stolen in February of 2017, and they were basically worth, I think, $30 million US. There were two of them, and
Was one of them the Home Alone picture? This is my sophistication level.
see, that's the really weird thing is that they weren't famous paintings at all.
Oh,
They were
okay.
just, yeah, they weren't even. So the thieves walked in, they stole two paintings, and they were worth money. They were small, but they weren't the most famous paintings they could have stole. So it was kind of an odd choice. But anyway, they were worth about $30 million. And then they ended up in the hands of the Camorra, the basically the mafia in Naples.
Oh, okay.
And what happens in Italy is, okay. So basically, paintings are, you can have them for insurance. So a painting is worth, in the criminal world, it's worth roughly 10% of what the market value is. So if you've got a painting that's worth $100 million market value, it's worth $10 million as collateral.
Oh,
So
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a criminal and you're like, okay, well, I owe you drug money here. Take this painting. It's worth,
Gotcha.
$10 million. I'll get you the rest of the drugs next week, and I'll take the painting back. But at least you've got something that's worth something.
Right.
Um, the other interesting thing
So you
is
don't
that
like cut my tongue out.
yeah, yeah. The other interesting thing is, and there's little quirks like this all around the world, is in Italy. If you have these paintings and you get arrested for anything, and let's say you get a 20-year jail sentence, there's a clause that says if you give back any artwork or anything cultural that you might have that back to Italy, then we'll cut years off your sentence.
Ha ha ha.
So they use it for that as well. And the other weird thing is
So
there's
did
some,
the mafia put that law into place?
yeah, it's actually the police. The Italians are so passionate about their art that they will be willing to cut your sentence, up to in half just to get the artwork back for the country.
And if you turn in a French piece of art, they'll add years.
No, we don't want that. That doesn't count. Actually, I'm not sure how that works. That would be interesting to look up whether like a foreign country's painting still counts. But I definitely know that if it's like an Italian, well, actually, no. There's a criminal that had these two Van Goghs, and he managed to get some. He said he had them, and they managed to. He wanted to negotiate to get some time off.
Yeah.
The Van Goghs were stolen from the Van Gogh Museum, not Italy. So I guess it counts for anybody's paintings. Just if we've
Okay.
got some from another culture. There's another quirky thing in Holland. I'll just bring up if you steal artwork or you steal something and you've held it for 20 years and not been caught, then technically it's yours. You get to keep it.
It's like squatting,
It's just
homesteading on art.
it's so weird, some of these, and that's a massive loophole that I can't believe is still in place.
Wow.
So let's see. The most expensive robbery ever actually happened in Boston. Surprisingly, I was.
Oh, yeah, I think I've heard of this.
This is the Isabel Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston.
We have a picture of that.
Yeah, I think we have the other slide. So basically, Isabel Stewart Gardner was like a Boston socialite, and she collected tons of art. And in 1990, it was St. Patrick's Day celebrations were going on. It was the 18th of March, and there's tons of noise and tons of parties and stuff like that in the area. And two men dressed as policemen knocked on the door of the museum and said, "Oh, we're responding to a call." And the guard inside figured, "Oh, it must be partiers, must have, got in somehow, or they must have, I don't know, tried to knock out a window or something." So against regulations, this guy let the policeman in. The policeman ended up not being policemen.
What?
They tied him up. They knew that there was only one other guard in the building. They waited until he actually came down and did his rounds and came down the stairs. And when he came down the stairs, they tied him up. And then they spent 81 minutes stealing 13 pieces worth $600 million.
Now or then?
Now.
Okay.
So this is
That's still good. That's good change. Yeah.
yeah. It's apparently it is the most expensive art heist ever. They took a Van Gogh. They took a famous Vermeer called The Concert. It was worth, let's see, $100 million for the Van Gogh. The Vermeer alone was worth $300 million. And then there were 13 pieces in total. Now, there's a bunch of theories on who did what and who they were and everything. But the thing is that these pieces have never been recovered.
Really? None of them?
Yeah. There's still a case open. Let's see if I can find. I've got a note
And what
here.
year was this again? Remind me.
Sorry, my notes. Sorry, I can't even read. 1990. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah,
If it was Holland, they'd be scot free.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, and no one actually knows where they are. So there's still like I think it's a 2,000 page file still. Oh no, that was something else. Sorry, that's the Gentile. No, they still haven't found anything. There are a few theories, one of which is mob associates. Um, they reckon that there's a couple of guys that were casing the joint. They were a bunch of trees around the museum. They were always up in the trees. And then before they could actually break in, one guy got arrested for something else. And his two colleagues, he reckons his two colleagues did it.
Hmm.
And when asked, well, what happened to your colleague? One died of a heart attack, and the other one ended up beaten up, headless in the trunk of his car.
Ooh.
So, yeah,
The FBI still has a reward of $65 million
oh, is it
for
60?
information.
It's up to 65. That's cool.
Yeah.
I have to put the FBI's art crime logo
Uh,
up because it's astonishing to me that a group dedicated to art can have such an awful looking logo. It is
Yeah, it's
horrendous.
pretty bad.
it is really, yeah. You would have thought they maybe could have got an artist to maybe. It looks like someone did it with Photoshop. I mean, come on.
Oh, the colors are terrible.
They just, yeah, they
It's
just.
just a mess.
I guess they thought they wanted some sort of impact. Like we do all types of art. Cram as much
You
art into
can't
that
even,
circle
it's
as possible.
unreadable. It's just terrible.
We act.
Five, six, seven, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like there's about 9 paintings shoved into the center of that circle. That's hilarious. Yeah, so there's various theories about what happened at the Gardner Museum. One of the more interesting ones is one of the guards. He's a 23-year-old guard. His name is Richard Abath. And the weird thing is, like, he was never arrested, but he often showed up at work either completely drunk or completely stoned. He The motion sensor showed that the thieves never entered one area where one of the paintings of Manet was stolen. Only Abath was on his rounds, and he went in
Oh,
that area. So that's very weird.
that is weird.
Mm.
There's also evidence that he opened a side door shortly before opening it again for the fake officers. And 24 hours earlier, he was seen letting some unauthorized men in the museum at night. Um, he was known for letting his friends into parties. So
And why
the day,
not?
yeah, a party. I got some great things. Yeah. But yeah, the day before he actually was seen letting strangers in. So it's I don't know. If I had to go with anybody, I think I would go with him.
Is this the
Um,
one where they didn't go upstairs where all the really valuable stuff was? That they missed a whole bunch of things that were just even more valuable? Or is that a
well,
different story?
I think that's a different one. That might have
Okay.
been the Van Gogh one because those guys they passed by one of the paintings of the sunflowers.
Oh,
They passed by the painting of there's a very famous painting of Van Gogh with his hat on and like just the red hair and they passed by those ones completely and took these two smaller ones. It's just very weird.
Hmm.
Another theory about the Gardner Museum. There was this California screenwriter who used to work in Boston. His name was Brian McDevitt, and he was involved in a bungled New York City sort of, a New Year's Eve um, robbery. It has a similar style. Him and a friend hijacked a FedEx truck in 1980. They stole the uniforms, and then when they were caught, they had duct tape and tools to cut paintings on them. But they never actually got to the museum because they got stuck.
I'm
And then when
sorry, you're cutting out a little bit.
he was still in Boston during this, so the fact that they took uniforms from a FedEx guy, they had duct tape, they had tools to cut paintings, seems highly suspicious.
So I wanted to One of the other myths, or I guess movie tropes, more like, is thieves cutting paintings out of their frames in order to be quick.
Oh, they do that. Yeah, no, that's not.
That's a real thing?
That's a real thing. Yeah,
Oh, geez.
yeah. Now, the Mona Lisa, he had enough time because the guards were sleeping to actually take the whole thing off the wall, but he took it out of the frame properly down in the staircase. But no, what a lot of people will do is they'll actually just take knives and just cut them out because it's
That, now, doesn't that damage? I mean, it's an awful thing to do.
oh, it's terrible. I just when I think about it, like, oh God.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's quicker and you can roll the painting up and usually carry it out a lot easier than you've seen some of those paintings.
Well, I was hoping that was a fake thing from Hollywood.
Sorry, no, that's actually a true thing. It's actually one of the most efficient ways of stealing a painting. Not that I'm giving people ideas or hints or tips or anything, but yeah, kids, next time you visit a museum, take a knife with you.
See if you can get it through the metal detector.
Yeah, seriously. Well, see, that's the thing with museums now because of the Mona Lisa, because it not only kicked off the art festival, it also kicked off the oh geez, we better get some more security in here world in the museums.
Ah,
So that's when they started taking it a little bit more seriously. So the knock-on effect was okay. So this painting was stolen. The criminals thought, oh, we can steal this. Let's steal some more art. Oh, the museums are like, oh, people are now stealing art. We have to do something about this. But the fact of the matter is that some of the smaller museums still don't have insurance or anything. They just can't afford it.
well, I mean, 100,000 pieces a year would indicate that no, they can't.
Yeah, I know. And some of I mean, when you steal a billion-dollar painting, I mean, what insurance company is going to, insure you for like $6 billion or whatever?
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, that. So let's see. We went through Mona Lisa. What makes a painting valuable? Most expensive one. Do you want to know the most stolen painting in the world?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so this isn't
Not the
counting the
Mona
not.
Lisa, because that was
No,
only stolen
not-
once.
that was only stolen once. No. The Ghent altarpiece by Van Eyck. It was done in the 1420s, and it's been stolen, I think, 6 times. And that's not including the Nazis. They took it as well, which I think we're doing a Nazi show and
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
The
yeah.
Nazis were so prolific at stealing art, they deserve their own episode.
Yep.
It just we'll get into that because that's a huge topic. But yeah, one of the times it was stolen was in 1934. There's 12 panels, I think. Yeah, there we go. So the panel, if you look at the picture that's on the screen right now, if you look on the bottom left-hand side, there's like a little panel with some guys on horses. That's actually fake. That's actually a reproduction because that panel, the original, is never been recovered.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. It was stolen in 1934, the 11th of April. They went into the church and they saw it, and there were a bunch of people around it, like around just a huge crowd looking at this. And the police showed up. The police commissioner decided that it could wait because a cheese shop across the street had been robbed. And obviously the cheese shop is more important than this 1420s, absolute. If you're in the art world, the Ghent altarpiece is one of the pieces that's known as one of the most like perfect pieces of art on the planet.
Obviously.
And cheese is obviously more important than the most important piece of art on the planet. So,
Wow.
yeah, he just decided to investigate the cheese shop, and then went. This is reminding me every time I say cheese shop, I'm reminded of the Monty Python sketch now. So yeah, he just decided they were going to investigate that instead. A few days later, a ransom demand followed for 1 million Belgian francs, which I don't have the value for. I don't know if anybody can look that up.
$7.95.
$6.82. The thief returned. Actually, the thief stole two panels, and he returned. Actually, there's three panels, and he actually returned two of the panels just to show that he was acting in good faith.
Hmm.
And just said basically, if you give me the rest of the money, you can have the rest of it. The money was not forthcoming. It ended up at some point a stockbroker, this guy called I'm not very good with Belgian names. Go Dirtier. On his deathbed, he said, "Oh, go and check my table. There's a note over there." And when they looked, they found a whole bunch of carbon copies of the ransom notes that had already been sent, plus another one that hadn't been sent. So they don't know if he was involved in it or if he. But one of the things that was written down in the unsent one, there was a clue, and the clue is this. So the clue is it rests in a place where neither I nor anybody else can take it away without arousing the attention of the public. So if Dan Brown wants to get on that, I would read that.
You know, that guy in New Mexico, his treasure got found already, so let's work on this one.
But yeah,
Yep.
in a place where neither I nor anybody else can take it away without arousing the attention of the public, which suggests that he's hidden it someplace
Public.
like out in the open or something.
Yeah.
One of the theories was there was a possible cover-up by the church. Apparently, one of the bishops got involved in a dodgy investment, and he lost a bunch of the church's money. So he stole the panel, and he wanted to ransom the church to get the church's money back. Like I don't know how that works. But anyway, that ended up not going any
steal from the church so you can pay the church back
with the church's money.
with the church's money.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been all kinds of theories about where it is. Nothing has come up. There's still, to this day, there is still an officer assigned to the case. So from 1934, when it was stolen, there is still someone looking into this. It's still an active case. There's a 2,000-page file on it. They still follow up every single lead they can possibly get. But some of the interesting things that had happened. So this stockbroker guy, Arsene Gauderchier, his skull in 1995, his skull was illegally excavated by an amateur detective. I don't know why. Like, maybe if I follow this guy, it'll tell me something. But someone else used the skull to hold a séance to ask the skull where the piece was.
A seance! Why didn't we think of that? Wait, somebody thought of it. It must not have worked, obviously.
Obviously not, no. And like I said, 2,000-page file. The case is still open. They're still hopeful they'll find it.
They probably didn't consult a mystic, so that's why it didn't
It's
work.
near water.
Near water.
I see the color blue.
It's out in the open, though, because remember the clue.
Yeah, a fountain.
I hope someone does write that book, though. That's actually there was a theory that it was tucked away in the back of another church. Apparently, I guess they got an anonymous clue and they went, and there was like a little panel behind like where the organ was. And when you looked, you're not allowed to go back there. It was just part of the church construction. But if you go back there, there was a piece of like a section of the wall that was the exact size of the panel from the altarpiece.
Really?
And people are thinking it might have been stored there, and that's what the clue was talking about, because there's no way you could get it out of the church without everybody noticing.
Well,
But
they got
it's
it
not
into the church without everybody noticing.
It's true. Yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe more people go to church these days. I don't know. Church is open late at night. You can't sneak in at night anymore. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm intrigued by the clue, though. I'm fascinated by that. It's a good mystery.
That is a good clue.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was never recovered. So
Yeah, it definitely is quite a tale.
well, the whole skull thing and the seance is just, are you kidding me? People go to such length and find these paintings. That is
Oh yeah.
Okay, so when you've got the clue and you've got the seance and the skull being dug up. Oh, come on, where is Dan Brown listening to this? Someone send this to him. This is right up his.
Right? Well, you could
Oh,
write it, Kelly.
I could have. Maybe I could.
Yeah.
he wrote it beforehand. This time,
I think
they're all just peons in Dan Brown's world.
the problem with writing the book is there's no, is there?
There's no what?
There's no ending. If you can't, if the clues don't lead to a happy ending for people, then there's no ending to the book, is there? Unless they find it at some point.
Well, I mean, that's no. Actually, the great part about it still being lost is you can make it be whatever you want.
Well, this is true, actually. Yeah, you might actually come up with the actual, solve it inadvertently through fiction. That would be kind of cool.
Or even funner is you could lead a lot of gullible people onto merry chases that go nowhere.
Well, because of Dan Brown, people actually go on. I don't know if they still do them, but when Dan Brown and the Da Vinci Code was really popular,
Hmm.
there were tours in the Louvre of like places from the book you could
Oh,
visit.
okay.
So obviously the Mona Lisa, and I think there was another painting mentioned that had a message behind it, and there was a bathroom that one of the characters jumped out of to escape the
Right.
museum guards. And they would actually take you on a tour, like this is the bathroom where they jumped out, and this is the painting that had the writing on it, and this is, it's like, oh god, no.
So does a rose line actually go through the Louvre?
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
I mean, but it does in the movie.
Yeah, and I don't think that what's her face is buried beneath the upside down pyramid. Like I just who is it? The Mary Magdalene? No, I don't. I've been there. I know she's not there.
Well,
Jimmy
look,
Hoffa's body is
according
buried
to,
beneath the
I remember.
Lisa.
Sorry, I keep stepping on you,
Who's
Jimmy.
that?
Oh no, I just said Jimmy Hoffa's body
Oh,
Oh
is
yeah.
buried below the Mona Lisa.
there is
Dan
I
Brown actually came out and said, "Look, this is a work of fiction,"
yeah, I know.
Yep, he did.
and people don't believe him. It's it's hilarious.
Well, they think he
Yeah,
said it because it's all a big cover up, and he was forced to say it to get people off the off the track and stuff like this. It's crazy. It goes back to there's a guy called Lincoln, and I don't remember the other guy, Vaillant or something, who wrote a book called The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, and it talks about the Merovingians and the bloodline of Christ, and how there's a person walking around now who is the great 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 whatever of Jesus Christ's brother, or I don't know. I think maybe it was Jesus had an affair with Mary Magdalene, and there's someone still walking around, and it was all proven like it was nonsense. It was interesting at the time, but they've since come out and said, "Oh no, this is fake. This is fake. Oh, we made this up. Oh yeah, we made this up as well." But no one believes them because it was
Right.
just so compelling. It's just such an. It's so interesting to
That's.
think that.
I mean, that's a good writer if it can make people believe your fiction is not fiction.
Well, these guys
Mhm.
sold it as nonfiction,
Oh.
which was the interesting thing. Hang on.
Well, you know, I
that
mean, the
whole,
Coen brothers said that Fargo was a true story, and that was total bullshit. They were just pulling people's legs.
Okay, just happen to have a copy of The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail because of course I do.
Of course
And
you do.
and the cover's actually and it's illustrated as well. I've got pictures in here and everything. It's by Michael Bajan, Richard Lee, and Henry Lincoln, and it came out in oh God, if you go through all of the quotes, it came out in 1982, and it talked about Rennes-le-Château, which is the very famous church in I think it's Scotland that has all the weird stuff in it.
Hmm.
It talks about Cathars and the mystery of the Cathars and monks and the Knights Templar and just the Prieur de Sion, and it goes on about all these conspiracies
right.
in the Merovingian. And it's sold as a nonfiction book.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's the weird thing.
Ah.
It's the explosively controversial international bestseller.
Well, they didn't include Oak Island on that.
Oh God, I hate that show. Oh my God,
Me too.
God, that show. No, they
I
did not.
was just going to say, with the writing of these things, especially Dan Brown, there was a quote from the legendary director Howard Hawks, who did Bringing Up Baby and The Big Sleep with Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. He said, people don't care so much about story coherency as they do about just having fun with it.
There's truth
I'll
to
agree with
that.
that. Yeah. Well,
Well,
the other
as long as you don't do something so glaring it pulls you out of the story.
Right,
well,
right.
the thing with both Dan Brown and okay, so Dan Brown did use a lot of the information from the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. We're getting way off topic here, but just we're still kind of a little bit about the Mona Lisa. And there's apparently Da Vinci and had all these secret signs in his paintings as well, pointing to all kinds of things. But I think what the books do is if they're well written, they make you feel smart. They give you just enough information for you to understand what's going on and maybe figure out a little bit for yourself.
Hmm.
And then a few pages later you go, I was right. I figured that out myself. Pat myself. And everybody wants to feel good about themselves.
Right.
And
And
Dan Brown genius at making people feel smart.
something that John Fowles mentioned in his very mind-twisting book, The Magus. He said, "The harder someone works to uncover the fact, the more they're likely they are to believe it."
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to think you put all that work in and it's all worth nothing.
Right.
That makes perfect sense. Anyway, yeah, apparently there are all kinds of secrets in the Mona Lisa and other bits of his work, and yeah, it gets a bit silly at times. Uh,
In looking at the enforcement side of that, that is how law enforcement goes after these guys. I was kind of surprised that New York didn't have its own squad for art theft.
Is
but
New
don't they?
York a hotbed?
I would think there might be some with all the galleries there.
Well, I mean,
Maybe I'm wrong.
I should. Yeah, I don't have a breakdown per state or country or anything. I just know that it's basically any museum is up for grabs, like anything in any museum. If you think you can get away with it, then yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
LA has its own squad for it.
That's really weird. The city itself has its own squad.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know the FBI has the what's it actually? We just had it up there. What's it called? The Stolen Art Unit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Stolen and looted art.
Art
There's also
crime team.
art. Yeah, I've also got something called the Rapid Deployment Art Crime Team. I think the full name. I don't know why it's the Rapid Deployment. I guess they get in fast. You got a stolen painting? We'll be there in minutes. We'll be there
Boom.
faster than
But
your
wait,
pizza.
we have to go investigate this cafe that got robbed.
Can you imagine that the Ghent altarpiece is missing and you go and investigate a cheese shop instead? They must really like their cheese in Bruges. I don't know.
And why not?
Sure. Yeah, no, I was looking up, I guess, I was looking up the FBI stuff, and apparently they've got, I know you might correct me if I'm wrong, I think they've got about 13 permanent agents plus a program manager. And
Yep.
they all have to learn art history, various languages, but also like the business of art. So, for example, how much is it worth from a criminal point of view, like that 10%
Oh,
of value, and how much is it going to be worth in Italy if we trade it in? Are you going to get how many years off? And they have to understand all that business part of it as well.
fascinating. Fascinating stuff.
They also have the National Stolen Art File, the database, and apparently it has over 2,000 entries just for the FBI database. Now, there's databases around the world as well, but the FBI one has over 2,000 entries in it of just missing art.
Who do you
Too
happen to?
bad there's no way to access it
I'd
to
lo-
see which ones are on it.
yeah, I'd love to see that. I mean, you can Google, show me the most valuable pieces of missing art, or the oldest pieces, or the cold cases and stuff like that, and show you. But yeah, I would love to get
Do
my
we
hands
have
on
any
that.
idea which countries have the most art stolen? Is it the U.S.? Is it France? Is it Italy? Is it somewhere else? Is it Asia? And some, who knows?
I I just based on my initial reading, I'm going to guess that it's probably because they've had
I'm
and I
sorry,
don't
I
know,
missed probably who?
Italy.
Okay,
And the only reason I'm saying that is because they've had, and I have pronouncing this word, it's the Italian police, carabinieri, is the Italian police,
right.
but they've also got the Carabinieri Art Squad, and they've got 300 members just of the Carabinieri Art Squad, and they've been set up since 1969. So either they have more art stolen from Italy than anywhere else, or they just really take it seriously. I don't know.
Well, very interesting. All right, so next week we are going to talk about forgeries.
Yay!
Looking forward to that. This has been a great episode. We appreciate you being on. As always, Kelly, we've missed having you around.
Sorry, I'm
Mm-hmm.
a huge amount of information in such a short period of time, but it's absolutely a huge topic,
It is.
and it's
Mm-hmm.
and it's mostly criminals. Oh, and I think I pointed out they get less than 10% of the art back, and a large proportion of that art is in terrible shape because criminals don't care about the art; they care about the value of the art. So they care that it's worth, like, for collateral purposes.
Right.
They don't care whether the art is destroyed, or whether, like, they use a knife to cut it out of the frames, like we discussed. They do all of that stuff. In fact, the Van Goghs that were stolen were actually found under a floorboard in some criminal's his dad's kitchen. So they really don't care. They store them anywhere. They damage them. Yeah, they're just completely just mostly ruined.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So
criminal what they do.
it's criminal. It really is. But
All
yeah,
right.
forgeries is an awesome topic to get into because there's some really interesting. You don't want to support these guys, but there really are some interesting characters that are involved in the forgery world.
Yes, there are, and I've seen some shows about some of them. Looking forward to that.
I worked
Orson Welles, F for fake.
I worked at the Victoria and Albert Museum for a while, and there was a big kerfuffle with some constables, and yeah, there was, and it's one of the reasons that a lot of museums now do not want to get involved in authenticating art because if they're wrong, they can
Yeah.
get sued,
Yeah.
and if they're right and it's the wrong person that they're talking to, they can get sued, and it's just everybody gets sued for everything these days. So
Right.
yeah, it's such a contentious topic, so it should be fun talking about it.
Very good. All right.
Cool.
Good
Mm-hmm.
night.
Good night.
Night.